on state and local governments joint accounts. Funds were sent directly to the accounts of the local governments. The suit also prays that the funds from the Federation accounts be channeled directly to local governments, bypassing the allegedly unlawful joint accounts managed by state governors. The federal government also sought an injunction to stop governors and their agents from receiving or spending local government funds without a democratically elected local government system in place. It contended that the governor's failure to establish such a system constitutes a deliberate subversion of the 1999 Constitution. The Supreme Court heard parties to the case on June 13th, with the state government through their respective attorneys generals opposing the suit. Although some governors voiced their concerns, the Nigerian Governors Forum, speaking through the chairman and Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdulrazak, said the judgment was a relief from the financial burden to state governments. Federal government has paid the outstanding 45-month minimum wage arrears owed to employees of the Nigeria Meteorological Agency. A statement issued by the Secretary of NIMET Union Joint Action Committee, Okechukwu Wokoro, said the unpaid arrears, which date back to 2019, had been a source of tension between NIMET management and its staff, leading to frequent clashes with labor unions. And earlier this year, this situation nearly escalated into industrial actions as the union had planned to go on strike on May 20th, 2024. However, the strike was averted at the last minute following an intervention by the House Committee on Aviation Technology and their Senate counterparts, and the agreement was reached on May 19, 2024, during a special session convened by the House Committee on Aviation Technology, led by its chairman Abiodun Akinlade, with NIMET management and union representatives in attendance. The Director General of NIMET, Professor Charles Anosike, expressed his gratitude to President Bola Tinubu for authorizing the payment of the arrears and demonstrated once again that he is a worker-friendly president, stressing that the issue of the unpaid 45-month minimum wage arrears predates this administration, but still, Mr. President has cleared the outstanding. The staff of NIMET, represented by the NIMET Union Joint Action Committee, also expressed their appreciation to Tinubu, Keyamo, and other government officials for the payment, while the unions expressed gratitude for the collective intervention in ensuring the payment of the outstanding minimum wage arrears owed to NIMET staff from 2019 to 2022. Debt Management Office has offered 2 federal government of Nigerian service bonds for subscription at 1,000 naira per unit. DMO, in a statement posted on its website, said the first offer is a 2-year FGN savings bond due on August 21st, 2026 at an interest rate of 17.373% per annum, while the second offer is a 3-year FGN savings bond due on August 21st, 2027 at an interest rate of 18.373% per annum. The opening date for the offer is August 12th, the closing date is August 16th, and the settlement date is August 21, while coupon settlement dates are November 21st, February 21st, May 21st, and August 21st, and assured that FGN savings bonds are backed by the full faith and credited of the FGN and charged upon the general assets of Nigeria. According to the Debt Management Office, the minimum amount that can be invested in the savings bond is 5,000 naira, while a maximum of 50 million naira can be invested, and interested investors are advised to contact appointed stockbroking firms provided by the DMO. Federation Account Allocations Committee says monies unremitted by revenue-generating agencies to the coffers of the federal government increased to 4.1 trillion naira as of June 2024. FAAC said despite the agency's reconciliation and payment of outstanding debt of 94.96 billion naira in May 2024, the unreserved amount is $165.1 billion compared to the initial amount of $336.4 billion recorded in May 2024. The latest development was disclosed in a report by the Federation Account Allocation Committee post-mortem subcommittee meeting and signed by the Chairman of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Mohammed Shehu. And the breakdown of the agencies indebted to the government showed that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited owes 941.62 billion naira, while the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission and NNPC owe a combined amount of $23.81 million and 1.94 trillion naira. The Federal Inland Revenue Service and NNPC have an unresolved remittance of $141.25 million and 1.4 trillion naira, while the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development and the Central Bank of Nigeria owe 48.75 million naira. The Vice President of the Post-Monsoon Subcommittee, who represented the committee chairman Kabir Mashi at the meeting, said the outstanding amounts were still being reconciled with the relevant agencies at the monthly reconciliation meeting, and the Federation Account Allocation Committee disburses allocations from the revenues generated into the Federation's account, which comprises multiple accounts specific to a sector business type. The Ogun State Governor, Dapo Abiodun, has flagged off the distribution of 24,000 bags of fertilizer to farmers in the state to address the challenges of food inflation and insufficiency. Abiodun, during the ceremony in Abeokuta, Ogun State, also inaugurated the State Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. He said the initiative was one of the people-oriented programs of the federal government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, aimed at ensuring that the nation achieve food sufficiency and security, adding that agriculture remains the backbone of the nation's economy as it provides sustenance, livelihood, and job opportunities to millions of Nigerians. He said the overall food production across the globe could not match up with the growing population, hence the need for people to engage in farming, and his administration would be more aggressive than before in tackling food inflation in the state, adding that his administration had allocated lands to members of the State Council, the House of Assembly, and the Judiciary for operationalizing the Back to Farm agenda. Abiodun therefore charged the committee saddled with the responsibility for the distribution of the fertilizers to be transparent. The Environment Program is appealing to the federal government to ensure the inclusion of the public in its environmental permit regulations to join in the decision-making process, conditions and approvals. UNEP's legal advisor, Andrea Lamas, who disclosed this in Abuja at the validation workshop for the review of the National Environmental Permitting and Licensing Systems Regulation 2009, said the move is to ensure the rights of the public in this process is fundamental and the importance of ensuring public participation throughout the environmental permitting process. Also speaking at the event, the Director General of the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, Dr. Innocent Bariko, agreed to the fact that getting the public involved in the new regulations was crucial, but stressed that certain templates must be reflected. Bariko said the collaboration of diverse stakeholders, including the regulated sector and other sector players whose businesses have a bearing on the environment, is crucial, adding that their expertise and feedback have helped in refining and enhancing these revised regulations, ensuring they are both effective and practical. He also said, considering some of the adjustments in the regulations, all the permits can be done, but they must follow certain specifications. President Bola Tinubu inaugurated 30 hybrid compressed natural gas powered buses in Abuja as part of the presidential CNG initiatives. The Depots and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited donated the locally manufactured CNG buses to the federal government. Each of the buses can accommodate 100 passengers. Chukuma had said the commuting public would soon enjoy cheaper transportation through compressed natural gas powered buses, while the automobile entrepreneur hinted at an ongoing partnership between his company and the federal government and described the presidential CNG initiative as the way forward for Nigeria. At the launch, the president said utilizing natural gas to power the nation's transportation industry would reduce transportation costs, enhance productivity, and save the nation trillions of naira spent on importation of petroleum and diesel, adding that the CNG buses are encouraging and promising to enhance our transportation system. Tinubu also said the commercial vehicles account for over 80% of the nation's petroleum demand, citing examples of several countries that have switched to CNG for their transportation systems and are already reaping the benefits, and commended Innocent Motors, the vehicle manufacturers, for their commitment to his administration's CNG initiative. Spokesperson of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Olufemi Sonaye, says the state-owned energy firm reduced its stake in Dangote Refinery to invest in compressed natural gas. Sonaye said the NNPC capped its stake at 7.2% instead of 20% to build CNG stations across the nation, and denied that the NNPC was collaborating with the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Commission to sabotage the Dangote Refinery. He debunked the allegation that the NNPC would sabotage a company in which it had a 7.2% stake, adding that the NNPC realized that CNG was more affordable as a better energy alternative for Nigerians, especially during the period of energy transition. He also said the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority's Chief Executive Farouk Ahmed was speaking in his capacity as a regulator in charge of all operators in the midstream and downstream, including the NNPC. In 2021, the NNPC acquired a 7.25% stake in the refinery for $1.0 billion, with an option of purchase the remaining 12.75% stake by June 2024, but the national oil firm has since reneged on its decision. Independent petroleum marketers in Nigeria have projected that the Dangote Petroleum Refinery will sell its premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, at 60 naira or 600 naira or 650 naira per litre when it is finally released into the market. Dealers under the aegis of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria said they believe that the Dangote Refinery will crash the price of petrol as it did with diesel, while IPMAN National Vice President Herman Fashola said the $20 billion refinery would bring down the cost of fuel if it gets the needed support, especially as it has to do with crude supply. According to him, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, which is a sole importer of PMS, has been selling to marketers at 570 naira per litre, but most IPMAN members buy from private depot owners at 700 naira and above. The IPMAN leader said the association has had business discussions with some officials of the refinery on a possible partnership, saying the marketers are waiting for Dangote, while the president of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, had last month projected that the refinery would begin the production of petrol between August 10th and 12th, 2024, adding that the 650,000 barrels per day capacity refinery could not roll up petrol on Monday for different reasons. The IPMAN leader said the association has had business discussion with some officials of the refinery on a possible partnership, saying the marketers are waiting for Dangote, adding that the 650,000 barrels per day capacity refinery could not roll up petrol on Monday for different reasons, while findings show that the ongoing crude supply crisis might be a setback to the refinery. Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries says Nigeria's average daily crude oil production increased marginally to 1.307 million barrels per day in July. OPEC's figure is contrary to claims that President Bola Tinubu and the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Benga Komolafe, that the country's oil production has risen to 1.6 million barrels per day. While OPEC in its Monday oil market report for August 2024 said Nigeria added an average of 30 barrels per day to increase its oil output from 1.27 million barrels per day in June to 1.30 million barrels per day in July. President Tinubu had, during his August 4th nationwide broadcast, boasted that oil production increased by over 300,000 barrels per day last month. Komolafe, who disclosed this at the House of Representatives Special Committee's two-day public and investigative hearing on oil theft and losses, while OPEC said in its report that the 1.3 million barrels per day for July was received from OPEC member, adding that it was based on direct communication. According to secondary sources, OPEC puts Nigeria's daily crude production at 1.38 million barrels per day in July, up from 36 million barrels per day in the previous month. While in May, Nigeria's daily oil production dipped to 1.25 million barrels per day, despite claims by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited that the country's oil production was nearing 1.7 million barrels per day. Nigeria's oil marketers have reignited hope that the Port Harcourt refinery will commence commercial production in the coming weeks. The national president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Billy Gillis-Harry, who disclosed this, said his recent visit to the 250 barrel per day refinery showed readiness to produce petroleum products in commercial quantity. Gillis-Harry said the full-scale kickoff of Port Harcourt Refinery and Dangote Refinery would guarantee an end to fuel queues in Nigeria. In the same vein, an oil and gas expert, Zach Kabala, said the hope for Nigeria's energy security lies with the revitalization of Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries, adding that Dangote Refinery is in the business to make a profit, but the government-owned refineries are to provide services for Nigerians. While the government must not allow those who do not want the country's national refineries to succeed. This is coming after in July 2024, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, projected that the Port Harcourt refinery would commence operation in August this year. And NNPCL had earlier declared March and July 2024 dates for the commencement of the refinery after its mechanical completion in December last year. And this comes after the Nigerian government in 2021 approved $1.5 billion for the turnaround maintenance of the refinery. Recently, Oyemi Bamidele, chairman of the Senate committee investigating alleged economic sabotage in the Nigerian petroleum industry, called for a probe on the $1.5 billion for the maintenance of Port Harcourt refinery. Federal government says the national identity number enrollment has increased to over 109 million in August 2024 from 107.3 million in May. The Director General of the National Identity Management Commission, Abisoye Kuka Odusote, disclosed this in a statement. The Commission spokesperson, Kayode Adegoke, said of the latest enrollment figure, 20% were children, and assured that the Commission will ensure that the NIN database is safe and secure. This is coming after in May when the Commission declared that NIN enrollment increased to 107.3 million. We are open for advert placements, bookings and commercials. And you can connect with us and watch us on ATN socials. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Nigerian Exchange Limited commenced the week on a bearish note, with the all-share index declining by 0.72% to settle at 97,881.75 points. Data after the end of trading on Monday showed that the decline moderated. The market's year-to-date return to 31.87%, the month-to-date to 0.16%, and the week-to-date to minus 0.72%. Market capitalization ended at 55.58 trillion naira, and investors traded 498,271. 498,271,393 shares in 10,645 deals, valued at 11.77 billion naira. And despite the decline in ASI, the market breadth closed positively with 29 gainers and 23 losers. Julius Berger Nigeria led the gainers with a 10% increase in shares price, closing at 121 naira per share, and was followed by National Salt Company, Total Nigerian with 9.98% and Oando with 9.98% conversely. BUA Cement led the losers table with the highest depreciation of 11.3% to close at 114.30 naira, while Skyway Aviation Handling Co. shared 5.43%. Sunu Assurance Nigeria 4.76% and Flour Mill Nigeria 2.61%. And in terms of trading activity, there was a 4% increase in volume, a 44% rise in turnover, and a 12% improvement in the numbers of deals. Nigeria's budget deficit has reduced by 29% from 2023 as the federal government eyes banks realize foreign exchange gains. Data from the latest quarterly statistical bulletin of the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that the country's fiscal deficit fell 29% to 2.83 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2024 from 3.96 trillion naira in the same period of 2023. And Nigeria's fiscal deficit in the first quarter of 2021 stood at 1.98 trillion naira. The fiscal deficit is a shortfall in the government's revenue compared with its expenditure, while experts say the reduced budget deficit may help the government to spend more on capital projects and human capital, which are critical in spurring economic growth, delivering jobs and reducing poverty. A breakdown of CBN's quarterly statistical bulletin reveals that the country's revenue in the first quarter of 2024 amounted to 1.76 trillion naira, while its expenditure stood at 1.53 trillion naira during the period, while revenue increased to 1.76 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2024 from 1.32 trillion naira in the same period of 2024. A report by FSDH Research says higher inflows from improved fiscal deficit and debt sustainability ratio in the short term, while in July 17, 2024, the Nigerian presidency announced a one-off 50% windfall tax on Nigerian banks' foreign currency revaluation profits in 2023 to raise funding for infrastructure and other critical spending as part of a 6.2 trillion naira or $4 billion in addition to the 2024 budget, and has been increased by 70% by the Senate. Nigeria has owned sizable shares of diaspora remittance averaging $20 billion in foreign inflows in the last decade, as such remittances become the most important foreign exchange earner in several countries for over a decade. And this growth has, however, been slow in recent years. According to the World Bank Migration and Development Brief in 2023, the diaspora remittance to Nigeria fell 3% to $19.5 billion from 2022, when it ranked in over $20 billion. And this is a part of the larger trend of a slowed recovery from the blow of the coronavirus pandemic. The World Bank recorded that remittance flows to low and middle income countries, of which Nigeria is part, slowed between 2022 to 2023, reaching an estimated $656 billion in total, only 0.77 up, in contrast to the period from 2021 to 2022, when it rose 8.3%. In sub-Saharan Africa, inflow of foreign remittances is projected to recover slightly from negative growth of minus 0.3% in 2023 to plus 1.5% in 2024, with a further increase in subsequent years if things go well. While in Nigeria, funds from citizens abroad serve as a critical lifeline, supporting everything from education and healthcare to infrastructure development and the country's foreign exchange liquidity. In June, the Central Bank of Nigeria declared that international money transfer operators would be given access to the official foreign exchange trading windows known as the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market. While under the new guidelines, IMTO operators can directly access the CBN window or via their authorized dealer banks to execute foreign exchange transactions in the market. International Monetary Fund says Nigeria's June inflation rate is the highest among top African economies. Data show that Nigeria, the fourth largest economy in Africa, has the highest inflation rate at 34.19% among its peers, while Morocco ranks as the sixth largest African economy, has the lowest inflation rate of 1.8% in June. South Africa, the largest economy in Africa, has an inflation rate of 5.1% at the end of the first half of 2024, while Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, is currently contending with a record high inflation rate at 34.19% in June 2024 due to the two-time devaluation of the naira and removal of petrol subsidy by the current administration. The inflationary trends have raised Nigeria's interest rate by a combined 800 basis points from 18.75% last July to 26.75% as the central bank continues to deploy monetary tools to restore the battered economy, while food inflation, which constitutes the largest percentage of the headline inflation, is currently 40.87%, including the cost of energy, transportation and basic commodities, have skyrocketed in the last 1 year, making making life difficult for the masses. The National Bureau of Statistics, which is a country's statistics agency, had the inflation rate for July on Thursday. Central Bank of Nigeria and FBN Holdings PLC have asked the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to dismiss a suit filed by investment firm Barbican Capital Limited over the alleged alteration of its alleged 5.4 billion units of shares in the bank. This comes after the plaintiff, Barbican Capital Limited, an affiliate company of Honeywell Group Limited, in suit claimed that over the years and at different times it cumulatively acquired about 5.4 billion shares, representing the 15.1% of FBNH overall share listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It said its shares purchases and dates of issues were adequately captured by FBN Holdings, appointed registrars, Meristem Registrar and Probate Service Limited, and further acknowledged in the Central Securities Clearing System, which contained its value of shares with the bank. However, FPN Holdings PLC, in a written address in response to the motion on notice filed by its counsel, Babajide Koku-san, informed the court that the plaintiff deliberately cancelled the fact of an ongoing verification exercise by the Central Bank of Nigeria of its alleged significant shareholdings, adding that the primary purpose of instituting the suit is to circumvent the verification exercise and the decision taken by the CBN against Barbican Capital Limited. He stated that on the 7th of July 2024, the plaintiff, in accordance with the regulatory laws and policies, notified the defendant that it had acquired units of shares and therefore held the shareholding amount to about 4.8 billion units of shares. This shareholding was about 13.3% of the defendant's shareholding. You are watching ATM Business on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to ATM Business and Atlantic Television Network. And now to the rest of our stories. Auctions of King Charles III banknotes with low serial numbers have raised £914,127,000 for charity, according to the Bank of England. A £50 sheet was auctioned for a record-breaking £26,000, while a single £10 note with the serial number HB01000002 was sold for as much as £17,000, the BOE said in a statement on Monday. 4 auctions took place over the summer for £5, £10, £20 and £50 notes, with the proceeds set to go to a range of charities. This includes the Bank of England's 3 charities of the year, as well as 7 others that have not benefited from charity auctions of the banknotes since 2016. Charities included those providing support for mental and physical health concerns, children living in poverty, people experiencing hunger, and the environment and animals. Each charity received just over £91,400 of the proceeds. The BOE said new banknotes that bear a portrait of King Charles III and which will enter circulation on June 5, 2024 are displaced for a photography after having been presented to Britain's King Charles III by Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey and Bank of England Chief Cashier Sarah John at Buckingham Palace in London on April 9, 2024. King Charles banknotes entered circulation for the first time in June and are the first note to depict a monarch other than Queen Elizabeth II, as this tradition only started in 1960. Notes featuring King Charles were first shown and then released after Elizabeth passed away in September 2022. Charles can be seen on the front of the 5, 10, 20 and 50 pounds banknotes and through the see-through security window of the notes. The design has otherwise remained the same, also featuring historical UK figures such as Winston Churchill and Jane Austen. The BOE previously said the new notes would only be printed to replace those that are worn out and meet any increased demand for banknotes. Notes featuring Elizabeth II remain legal tender. Elon Musk's much-hyped interview of former President Donald Trump on the social media platform X was nearly derailed early on by technical glitches in the first minutes of the scheduled start time on Monday evening. Users trying to log on to the event, which was scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. ET, reported that they could not join X's live stream platform. The billionaire Tesla and SpaceX CEO blamed a cyber attack for freezing the X platform. After nearly an hour of troubleshooting, the conversation finally began in earnest and went for more than 2 hours. At various points, as many as 1.3 million people appeared to be watching the interview, according to the X Space tally. Monday's glitches were reminiscent of X's technical disaster in 2023 with Bush Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign launch announcement. This time, the event was billed as a conversation between 2 of the world's most influential people, something boozy and potentially newsmaking that might help revive Trump's campaign. The 3 weeks since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, now the Democratic nominee, have rattled Trump and his presidential campaign. Trump's advisors have urged the president to adopt a more disciplined, traditional campaign script at public events, set Biden aside, attack Harris on policy, and try to stay on message. But Trump has really chosen this route, and Monday was no exception. Trump spent the first half hour of the interview describing the attempted assassination he survived in July in Butler, PA, which claimed the life of an audience member at a rally. Trump also told some of the classic stories he likes to tell in public about his friendship with autocrats like Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, his worries about nuclear power, and his low opinion of NATO. Trump also made many of the same unfounded and debunked claims about immigration and crime that he typically makes on the campaign trail. Most of the topics were familiar ground for Trump, but running a presidential campaign against Harris, 59, was still clearly very new to Trump, who spent the last 2 years running against Biden. Over his 2 hours with Musk, the former president mentioned Biden by name at least 24 separate times, but Trump mentioned Harris less than half as much, just 11 times, according to information tally. Panic appears to have faded following last week's outbreak of volatility in U.S. stocks. But if history is any guide, markets might remain jittery for months. Wall Street's most closely watched gauge of investors' anxiety, the CBOE Volatility Index, has rapidly eased after closing at a four-year high last week, and stocks came screaming back following the year's worst tumble. The S&P 500 from last tab is up 3% from last week's low, while the VSS, however, hover around 20, far below the August 5th close of 38.57. Investors pointed to the rapid dissipation of market anxiety as further evidence that last week's meltdown was fueled by the unwinding of massive leverage positions, including yen-funded carry trades, rather than long-term concerns such as global growth. Even so, turbulent episodes in which the VIX shoots higher show markets tend to stay frothy for months after a blow-up, arguing against a kind of risk-taking that lifted asset prices in the first part of the year. Indeed, analysis show the VIX has taken an average of 170 sessions to return to its long-term median of 17.6 once it has closed above 35, a level associated with high investor anxiety. This month's U.S. stock market tumult follows a long, placid period in which the S&P 500 rose as much as 19% for the year to a record high in early July. Cracks formed when disappointing earnings from several richly valued technology companies last month sparked a broad-based sell-off and lifted the VIX from its range in the low teens. Wall Street's main indexes closed mixed on Monday as investors braced for more key economic data in the hope of gauging the Federal Reserve's next policy moves. Russia's central bank on Tuesday cancelled the banking license of American Express Co's Russian subsidiary after the U.S. lenders unit filed a voluntary liquidation request. Russian President Vladimir Putin decreed in May that American Express could liquidate its Russian business a little over 2 years after the company had suspended all its operation in Russia in response to what the bank called Russia's unjustified attack on the people of Ukraine. The bank ranked 300th in Russia's banking system in terms of assets, the central bank said. Since mid-2022, foreign banks have required Putin's approval to exit the market to sell stakes in their Russian business. The bank's Russian units filed the liquidation application in early July, Russia's corporate registry, Spark, showed. American Express did not immediately respond to an emailed request for comment. In March 2022, shortly after Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which Russia called a special military operation, American Express said it had dozens of staff inside Russia. It was not immediately clear how many staff the bank still has in the country. Credit ratings agency Fitch downgraded Israel's credit rating to A from A+ on Monday, citing worsening geopolitical risk as the war in Gaza drags on, and kept the rating outlook negative, meaning a further downgrade is possible. The ratings agency expects the Israeli government to permanently increase military spending by close to 1.5% of GDP versus pre-war levels, putting upward pressure on the country's budget deficit and debt levels. Israel's war on Gaza, triggered by the Islamist group Hamas, led a cross-border attack on October 7th, has cost thousands of lives and is in danger of expanding. Earlier this year, Moody and SP Global also cut their credit rating for Israel, citing elevated geopolitical risk. Fears that the conflict in Gaza could turn into a broader Middle East war have escalated after the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran and top Hezbollah military commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut. Israel is braced for significant attacks from Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel's shekel fell as much as 1.7% against the dollar on Monday, and stocks ended over 1% lower in Tel Aviv as investors fret over a possible attack on Israel. The shekel opened 0.3% higher on Tuesday, while the stock market is closed for a Jewish fast day. Heightened tensions between Israel and Iran and its allies could imply significant additional military spending, destruction of infrastructure, and demand to economic activity and investments, Fitch said. And this is where we wrap it up on this edition of ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network here in the city of Port Harcourt. I am Wendy Aguma. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. Stay connected on ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Network. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and good afternoon.